Everybody wants to be lean and jacked and get all the leverage and advantages you get when you have this type of 1% physique. The attraction, the respect, and the presence when you walk in a room. But almost no one talks about what it actually takes to get there. What it feels like the first time around you truly get in shape, and all the things you have to sacrifice, but also why it's worth every single one of those things. The emotional, the physical, and the mental cost. And we're going to talk about what it actually takes to get there, what it's going to feel like, and why every single one of those things is worth giving up to get there the first time around. Because let's be honest, guys, the first time you get in shape, it's difficult. You are battling a lot of different things. And one of the first things is going to be the physical cost, how your body actually responds to you getting down to low body fat if you've never been there before. You got to think, if you spent 25, 30 years of your life out of shape or with more body fat, it is going to be a complete shock to you once you actually start getting close to single digit body fat. You're going to be hungry all the time. You are going to be tired. There are going to be days where you don't even feel like going for a walk because you have very little energy. And you are going to have to consistently refuse to do certain things you're used to doing, going out on the weekends, having a few drinks, maybe even going to dinners. But unfortunately, that is what it takes for a lot of people the first time they get lean. After you've already built that physique, you've already got there, then you can start maintaining it around while doing all of those things and being much more flexible and relaxed. And I know I tell you guys in a lot of videos how simple it is to get lean. It is simple, but I'm telling you what it really takes the first time around, because I've coached hundreds of guys to that 10% body fat after having to lose 50, 60 pounds of fat. And personally, for me, the first time I got to 10% body fat, I had to do the same thing. I only had to lose 15, 20 pounds, but you still have to sacrifice a few of those things one time in your life if you maintain it properly afterwards. And every single thing you consume, once you start getting to these lower body fat percentages, shows up in your body. You see your body's reaction to it. The food you eat, the people you're around. If you're around people that are drinking, you start ending up having drinks with them, you're going to notice it as soon as you wake up in the morning, even maybe that night. You're going to start realizing how your body actually responds to things. But one of the best things about this is you start realizing, especially when you're locked in on your nutrition, your sleep is a non-negotiable. Same with your recovery. You're paying attention to how your body responds, how much energy you've been missing out on a daily basis. You didn't realize that consuming all those calories, eating the junk food, or maybe eating one meal a day and drinking water, chewing gum, anything to try stay satiated was actually crashing your energy. You were barely even operating like a regular human being. You were just on autopilot, drifting through life, basically asleep, because you weren't giving your body enough fuel. And that's one of the best parts about these sacrifices you make. Yes, you have to be dialed in with your food, nutrition, recovery, training, everything. But it gives you so much clarity on what your body actually feels like, what it actually feels like to have a body that operates correctly. And the next thing we're talking about is the mental cost. Because in reality, the training, the cardio, the hunger from eating in a calorie deficit isn't actually that bad. But what you start realizing you have to confront is how weak-minded you actually are, how easy you give in to these cravings, how much of a shock it is that the voices in your head have more control over you than your body. You know you want to reach the goal, you know you want to get lean, but that voice inside your head's telling you, one little snack here won't hurt that bad. Oh, if we just have a little bit of candy here, it's not going to kill us. When you get lean the first time, you have to avoid those things. You have to battle it because you have to build that resilience. And you have to build the foundation where in the future, when you are maintaining the low body fat percentage and you build a little bit of muscle, your metabolism's working a little bit better, you can have those things. But you have to go through the process that everyone has to go through the first time around, where you have to be dialed in. You have to fight those voices and you have to actually conquer them and realize you are in control, not those little cravings, those voices, whatever it may be, your hunger hormones. They are not in control of you. You have to become greater. You have to become stronger than those things. Any external forces, the shop, the bakery, whatever it is you walk by that gives you that urge, you have to become stronger than these things. And you start realizing how addicted you were to these comfort foods and escaping from reality through dopamine and serotonin. And once you get control over these urges to get a little bit of dopamine just for 15 minutes, just for an hour after you eat that comfort food, you start realizing that life is actually great. especially when you get to low body fat percentage. Life is actually really good. You enjoy things that you never thought you'd enjoy before. You enjoy doing hard work. You enjoy working on your business or going to work and actually doing a good job. You realize those things give you much more fulfillment and a much longer lasting feeling of joy rather than those short-term fixes from the snacks, the fast food, whatever it may be, whatever your vice may be, drinking even. You realize that the hard work and all the hard things you did to get to that body fat percentage was actually more enjoyable, more fulfilling, fills you with more purpose and more drive to want more. And that's one of the best parts about getting to this body fat percentage, down to 10, 12% body fat, once you really start revealing who you are mentally and physically. Because you're confronting all those things I mentioned before, that desire for dopamine, that desire for cravings, that desire for comfort, and you become greater than that. We've spoken about the mental and physical cost, but we need to talk about the emotional cost. And not many people really talk about this or ever mention it. And one of the greatest benefits, but one of the hardest things to do is realizing how much quieter your life gets, how much more alone you are when you really dial in, because you're cutting out junk food, you're cutting out drinking, you're cutting out partying, sometimes even social events to reach this for the first time, guys. And remember, I'm talking about the first time you actually get to 10% body fat. That is the toughest time. After that, it's pretty easy and straightforward, but you first need to overcome the first two things, the physical and the mental. But you'll start realizing you no longer connect with certain people in your life who you may have been friends with for a really long time, because you start realizing their habits and their goals don't align with you whatsoever. And you start spending more time alone, you start reflecting and start really figuring out what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because the truth is, not many people actually think about who they are. They don't think about where they're going. They don't think about where they want to be in 6 months. They're not even making decisions based on their opinions or their beliefs. They're just doing what everyone else is doing. And you'll spend time alone. You'll start realizing that this is one of the greatest blessings. But at first, it's very difficult because you're not used to being alone. We're social creatures, right? And you're in a position which I call evolution purgatory, where you no longer fit in with that same crowd. And you're still not yet in a place where you've met enough people that are on the same mission as you, on the same journey. And so you're stuck in between, and you don't really know what to do. You don't have to go back because you're lonely, or how to find anyone that's in the position you want to be or on the same path. But this is a really, really important time period, and I recommend journaling in this time because you're going to learn so much about yourself. And when you journal, don't think of what you're going to say. Just take a pen to paper and just write a couple pages. Let your thoughts come out onto the page. Your mental clarity is going to be 10 times greater. You're going to have a lot more direction. You're going to start realizing who you truly are. Like, what do you actually think? And really what you're trading here is the validation or the approval that you would get instantly with fitting in for long-term respect, long-term progress, and you have a greater vision for the future. And this is why it's so worth it to get lean for the first time and go through and pay the cost of what it takes the first time you get lean. Because really what you're building is long-term progress. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about next week. You're not even thinking about next month. You're thinking about a year from now, 5 years from now, your legacy, your confidence, the way you're going to walk in a room, how you're going to feel about yourself, your belief, and you're building the freedom in the future so that you can travel, you can eat out, you can go out to social events while still being in great shape, while still maintaining 10% to 12% body fat year round. But you have to take that time in the beginning to level yourself up. And you've got to be alone. You've got to go through hunger pains. You've got to go through periods of not wanting to do cardio, and you got to do it. You got to go through the period of outgrowing certain environments, certain social circles, and it'll all be worth it in the end. The cost may seem high, right? You're giving up all these things. You have to go through all this pain, all this struggle. But the real cost that is much higher is never being proud of yourself, never having self-respect, going through life wishing, waiting, hoping that you become the best version of yourself, but never doing anything about it. And if you want to learn this type of control, you want a system personalized for you so that you can build this physique, follow me on Instagram @BrussI and DM me the word elite. We'll talk about where you're currently at, where you're trying to get to, and how we can build that system personalized for you to make it inevitable in the next 6 months to 1 year.